Good morning. Viewers at home, how are you? And all the learners in this country called Kenya. I'm glad this morning to be here to take you through English lesson class 8. I'm a teacher at Gatina Primary School. That is in Dagoretti constituency, Dagoretti North. My name is Esther. Today we shall be looking at parts of speech, and I'll dwell mostly on modal verbs. So we shall be looking at parts of speech, verbs, and more specifically, modal verbs. But before I look at the modal verbs, we can have a review of the parts of speech that we have. Number one, we have the nouns. Nouns are naming words, and the nouns are categorized into different categories. We have proper nouns. We also have common nouns. We also have compound nouns. Abstract nouns. And we also have collective nouns. Those are the types of nouns that we have. The proper nouns, these are names of people, names of places, and mostly they start with capital letters. Then we have the common nouns. With the common nouns, we talk about things like books, boys, goats. These are common nouns. Books, boys, goats. We have names of people, John. We have towns, Nairobi, etc. We also have the compound nouns, and these ones are formed by joining one or two words. For example, we have a mother, in-law. We can also have a schoolmate. So these ones can take a hyphen, or they can be without a hyphen. We have the abstract nouns. With the abstract nouns, these ones you cannot see them, you cannot touch them. They mostly deal with feelings like hate, joy, peace. You cannot touch them, you cannot feel them. Then we have the collective nouns. With these ones, they talk of a group of things. For example, we can be talking about a library of books, a bunch of keys, a swarm of bees. So that is number one. Then we have the nouns. The pronouns. This is another part of speech. And these ones, they replace a noun. They replace a noun, and they are also in different categories. We have possessive pronouns. The possessive pronouns, they show ownership. For example, this book is mine, that car is yours, that house is ours. So the possessive ones. shows ownership. Like mine, yours, and many others. We also have the demonstrative pronouns. With the demonstrative pronouns, they talk about the person or the thing being talked about. For example, this book, that car, that cow. So we have this, that, those. Those are the demonstrative pronouns. We also have the relative pronouns. The relative pronouns, they relate to a noun, and the noun is related to an action. For example, who, whose, whom. And we can have an example in a sentence. This is the man whose car was stolen. This is the boy who took some mangoes from the basket. We also have the reflexive pronouns. The reflexive pronouns, they refer to the subject noun. For example, myself, himself, themselves. Myself, himself, themselves. etc. And we also have the interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns, they ask questions. When, why, where, what. So they ask questions. When, where, what. Those are the interrogative pronouns. I hope learners at home, you're making some short notes on this, because they are very necessary for your exams. Then we have another part of speech, the adjectives. The adjectives describe a noun. For example, slow, quick. There is an adjective. Then they can also be formed by adding full to a word. For example, fruitful, etc. Number 4, we have the verbs. There is another part of speech, but I'm not going to dwell much on it at this time. I'll come back to it. We have the verbs. Then, apart from the verbs, we have another part of speech. I have the other part of speech. We have the prepositions. The prepositions, they show a relationship between two nouns in terms of their place, position, time. And we have examples of prepositions. We have on, under, between, and many others. The list is endless. We have another part of speech. We have the conjunctions. These are joining words. They are used to join sentences. For example, instead of having two sentences, like now I can have Mary is coming. She is carrying a bag. I can make that sentence one by using a conjunction. And I can say, Mary is coming and she's carrying a bag. In this category of conjunctions, we also have words like moreover, however, nevertheless, although, and they are also grouped into different categories. We also have another part of speech. We have the interjections. The interjections are words that are used to express feelings, feelings of joy, feelings of sadness. Maybe you have hurt yourself and you are feeling pain. They are used to express such feelings. For example, we can have words like ouch. They use an exclamation mark. Wow, hooray. So all those words are used to express your feelings. And finally, the other part of speech, we can have the adverbs. We have the adverbs, and the adverbs, they are used to describe verbs, adjectives, or even other adverbs. They are also in broad category. We have adverbs of time, weekly, monthly. It is the adverbs of time. We also have adverbs of manner. They tell you how an action was done. For example, quickly, slowly. We also have adverbs of place. Adverbs of place tell you where an action took place. It can be in the church, in the field, in a hotel, etc. So it's also another broad category of the parts of speech. Now, after learning the parts of speech, because they are very important in learning English, I said we shall be discussing verbs. And we have different types of verbs. We have different types of verbs. One, we have regular verbs. We have regular verbs. These verbs get their past tense by adding. You get the past tense. By adding letter D, all ed to the word. For example, you have the word bake. If you want to get the past tense, you just add letter D. So you get the word baked. You also have a word like walk. To get the past tense of that word, you just add ed. Walked. There are others where you'll be forced to add id to the word. And you have to drop a certain letter. So you have to add id to the word. For example, like try, to change to tried. So those are the regular verbs. We also have another group of verbs, irregular verbs. The irregular verbs, when you're getting their past tense and also their past participle, you have to change the vowel. Examples of irregular verbs, we have words like sing, words like swim. So with the word sing, when I want to get the past tense, the word will change to sang. So this vowel in the middle changes to vowel a. Then we have a word like swim. It will also change to swam. And when I want to get the past participle of the word sang, the vowel will as well change again, and I'll have it as sang with that vowel in the middle. The word swim will also change the same, and it will be swam with the vowel in the middle changed. Now, with those irregular verbs, in their past participle, if you have a helping verb, like the word had, have, you will use the past participle here. For example, the dog has drank the water. So this is a helping verb. When there is a helping verb, you use the past participle of that word. I hope learners and parents at home, we are together and you're getting things right. Now I can go to the same types of verbs, the irregular ones. They are those ones that change completely. You don't change any vowel. Like now I have the word buy. This word will change to bought. I have the word bring. This one will change to the past tense and be brought. These are irregular verbs. And again, with the irregular verbs, we have those that do not change at all. For example, the word put. You cannot have its past tense as putted. It will remain put. You have the word cut. It will remain cut. We don't have anything like cutted. The same case with the past participle, it will be the same. The word cost. It will remain cost. So there is nothing like costed. And also there is nothing like cutted. So those are irregular verbs. And then we have another group of verbs. We have the other group of verbs. These are the auxiliary verbs. That's another group of verbs. With the auxiliary verbs, they're used together with the main verb. Used together with the main verb. They are very common because these ones are words like is, was, were, have, has. These are the auxiliary verbs. Words like to, does. They are all auxiliary verbs. I can have an example in a sentence. Mothers were sent Happy Mother's Day wishes. So the word were here is an auxiliary verb. Mothers were sent Happy Mother's Day wishes. That was just yesterday. And I hope learners at home and even parents, you sent your mothers Happy Mother's Wishes Day. Then we have another group of phrasal verbs. This is another group of verbs, phrasal verbs. With the phrasal verbs, these are verbs that take one or two or even more prepositions. They take one or more prepositions. For example, put out. This means to extinguish fire. So this one is taking one preposition. We also have lay off, which means to fire or to sack workers. We have others that take more than one. Look down on somebody. Look down on somebody. That is to despise somebody. Despise somebody. We also have another phrasal verb taking more than one preposition. Put up with, which means to tolerate somebody. Maybe the person is of bad behavior, but you can still put up with that person and try to make him or her reform. Now, apart from the phrasal verbs, Now I come to the other group of verbs, the modal verbs. And as I said in the beginning, this is the group of verbs that I want to dwell on mostly. And when we are talking about modal verbs, these are verbs that indicate likelihood, ability, permission. They indicate likelihood, permission, ability, or even an obligation. Those are the modal verbs. And there are also several. We have can, could, we have might, may, would, should, will. All those are modal verbs. And according to what I have realized, these modal verbs are very common in the KUTV exams, and especially when it comes to the broken passage. There is number 1 all the way to number 15. In most of the years, I discovered that you get several questions on modal verbs. With the modal verbs, they have their uses. And I'll start with modal verb 1, word could. So we're looking at the uses of these modal verbs. Uses of modal verbs. We start with number 1, the word could. Could as a modal verb is used to show 1, ability. So it is used to show ability. For example, in a sentence, Juma could lift the box. So that is an ability being shown by the word could. We also use it to show or to give a request when making requests. For example, could you lend me your book, please? Your book, please. So that is could being used to make a request. We have number 2, would. As a modal verb, would as a modal verb, it is used to show possibility. That is another use of this modal verb, a, used to show possibility. And in a sentence, we can say this: I would have passed my exam if I revised my notes thoroughly. my notes thoroughly. So that is the word would being used to show a possibility. So this person is saying, if only. She revised her exam thoroughly, her notes thoroughly, should have passed the exam very well. So there the use of the word would as a modal verb. It is used to express wishes. So another use is expressing wishes. So, for example, in a sentence, if I was a small baby, I would sleep for many hours. I would sleep for many hours. So it means this person is wishing if only he or she was a small baby. I would sleep for long hours. That is a wish. The word would as a modal verb is also used to make offers. Making offers. When you're offering to do something for somebody, for example, would you like some assistance? Would you like some assistance? There is a word would as a modal verb. We use it in all those instances showing possibility, expressing wishes, and also to make some offers. We have the word should. Should. It's also another modal verb. Should can be used, one, to show an obligation. Showing an obligation or a duty. For example, children should obey their parents. There is an obligation that the children should have. They should obey their parents. Then we can have another use of the word should. Should can also be used for a command. Command. No compromise here. It's something that should be done. For example, you should bathe every day. Whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. There is no choice here. The fact is that this person should bathe every day, whether he or she likes it or not. The word should, again, is used to give advice. Advice. For example, you should revise your notes oftenly. So this is an advice being given to a learner in order for this learner to perform in his or her work in school. You should revise your notes oftenly. Then I move to the other modal verb. That is the word might. Might. The word might is used to express possibilities. Used to express possibilities. And when we talk of possibilities, these are things that we are not certain about. For example, I might say, it might rain this afternoon. It might rain this afternoon. I'm not very sure whether it will rain this afternoon, but I'm just making a prediction. It might rain this afternoon. Then I move to another modal verb, that is must. Must, as a modal verb, one, is used to show or to give a command. Command. For example, you must stop. You must stop at a red traffic light. There is a command. You must stop at a red traffic light, so you cannot go struggling with the vehicles on the road when the red light appears. Then the word must is also used to show certainty. Certainty. When you are very sure about something, for example, he must be sick. He must be sick. He looks very weak. So when you look at that person, the person looks weak, and then you're sure this person is unwell. Then we have another modal verb, which is will. Will. With the word will, we can use it to make some requests. You use it to make requests. For example, will you accompany me to the market this afternoon? Will you accompany me to the market this afternoon? That is a request. We can also use the word will to command. We also use it to command. For example, will you shut up? Will you shut up? And because it is a command, at the end we put an exclamation mark. We are simply commanding some people to shut up. Then we have can. The word can, you can use it to ask for permission. Asking for permission. And when you're asking for permission, I can give an example in a sentence. There is, can I use your phone now? Can I use your phone now? That is a request. You can also use the word can to show an ability. For example, I can swim. That means you are a person who is able to swim. So, ability. Use it for an ability. And outside you can have an example of a sentence. There is a I can swim. So that is how we use the word can as a modal verb. Then, the modal verbs are equally used in question tags. They are used in question tags. So we look at use of modal verbs in question tags. So question tags are also very common in the KCPE exam. And at times you get some question tags which use the modal verbs. I can have an example in a sentence. Martin won't finish the work. The question tag that I'll put at the end of that question, at the end of that sentence, it cannot be the word won't he, like some learners do. So it will be will he. And will, like we learned previously, is a modal verb. Martin won't finish the work, will he? Then another sentence with a question tag taking the modal verb. He must see a doctor this afternoon. And the question tag that I'll put in that sentence will be mustn't he. Mustn't he. So the modal verbs in the question tag can take both a negative form and a positive form. I can have another modal verb in the question tags. You couldn't ride a horse. You couldn't ride a horse. And then my modal verb in that question tag will be could you. The word could as a modal verb there. Then we have another question tag with a modal verb. Pupils should obey the school rules. Pupils should obey school rules. Shouldn't they? Shouldn't they? Those are question tags. I can also have another question tag. He can't swim across the river. Can he? The word can. Then a command, shut the door. Will you? The word will. Please give me some water. Will you? That is a request. So the modal verbs also can be used when making a command in a question tag and also a request in a question tag. Now, having done all that, the modal verbs, I also want us to look at the KCPE exam papers with modal verbs. I shall give you the year and the questions that appeared in that exam using the modal verbs. So KCPE exam papers with modal verbs. So in the year 2011, there was number 13. 2012, number 11. 2013, you had number 11 as well. And also number 20, which is grammar part. Grammar part. Then you have year 2014, number 15. Then you had also number 20 in the grammar part. Year 2015, you had number 15. 2016, there was question number 2. 2018, you had number 8 and 13. And also you had question number 20 for the grammar part. Then 2019, you had number 3. So you can see for all those years, questions with modal verbs are very common. And like I said, in the broken passage, they are very common. And you can also get them with a question tag. So students at home, kindly take your time, go through the papers, the KCP papers, because I believe you can access them. There is a book called Boosters. It has all the KCP papers. You can get those questions there, and you confirm that. So as we wind up, learners, I want us to remind ourselves the verbs that we have learned. So we have learned the regular, irregular, auxiliary. We also have the phrasal verbs. We have now the modal verbs. And we have looked at several modal verbs, which we have discussed at length, their uses, and maybe a reminder of these modal verbs. We have words like may, might, could, can, will, would, should. So these are some of the modal verbs that we have learned, and we have learned their uses as well. There are those that we use to make requests, commands, to show obligations, and also there are those that we use to make some requests. So these are the modal verbs that we have learned today, and like I have said, they are very common in exams. So don't forget looking at them as you revise your work at home. And also look at all the verbs. All the verbs are very, very important. You never lack them in your exams. So concentrate in all the parts of speech in English, and that will make you perform well in your exam if you revise them thoroughly. Before I wind up my lesson, I want to give you an advice. Right now, you're not going to school like you normally do. It's not time to move up and down in your homes. Kindly stay at home. We have a pandemic, COVID-19, which is taking away lives, which is a very serious pandemic. So kindly, pupils at home, parents, and everybody, let us be cautious. Let us wash our hands with running water and soap thoroughly and regularly. Also, sanitize our hands. And not unless there is a very important business that is making you leave your house. Kindly stay at home. Stay safe. God willing, we meet another time. My name is Teacher Esther. God bless you for listening. Thank you.